everybody. Today on the Prosperity Insider Show, we have a very special Prosperity Insider VIP guest, an incredible Emmy-nominated comedy magician and absolutely amazing entrepreneur, the brilliant Larry Wilson. More importantly, Larry Wilson will reveal on this episode about how you can implement 3 simple steps to potentially transform your financial future. Welcome to the Prosperity Insider Show. I am your host, Chief Solutionist David Don Hobley, and today's show focuses on our category called Interviews Revealing Extraordinary Techniques for Success. My guest today is an Emmy-nominated performer, communications expert, speaker, trainer, and 2017 Comedy Magician of the Year. I'd like to welcome the founder of the Wilson Method, the foremost communications training system in the world today, Larry Wilson. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Such an honor.
Well, it's really my pleasure to be here. But I must take issue with you in one part that you said in the fantastic introduction you gave me. You said the things I'm going to reveal to your people could potentially improve their financial situation. That is not accurate. There's no reason for us to use the word potentially. The stuff we'll talk about today, if you use it, absolutely will improve your financial situation. How much sort of depends on you.
Right. I agree with that. If people take action, they multiply their chances of prosperity by 100%. If they don't take action, there's 0 chance. So fantastic. Larry, it's just such an honor to have you here. You know, we know that you've done shows all over the world, including Las Vegas. You had your own show there, and you've been performing at the Magic Castle. I think that's down in LA. I heard that's a pretty cool place.
It's extremely.
Yeah, it's such an honor for you to agree to come on to our show, and we're very appreciative. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the sizzle reel, tell people a little bit about Larry, and then we'll get started with the interview.
Great.
Larry Wilson here. I'm extremely proud that my wife, Nicole, and my son, Joss, are now able to pursue their dream. That was my goal. That was my objective. That they could do what they love in life without compromise. The thing that makes them feel fulfilled. Not just their passion, but with a sense of purpose. I do the same thing with my clients because I was looking for that purpose. And I found my answer in a most unlikely place, on stage in the biggest theaters and sound stages from the most famous stars and celebrities in the world. I learned a skill set that is very unique, and that is how to communicate in a way that makes you impossible to ignore and invisible no more. I've dedicated my entire life to mastering these communication skills that open the doors of opportunity. And after 25 years teaching these skills internationally, I've never had a single failure. The reason for my success with people of virtually any background or age is that my techniques, my systems, my processes don't require talent. They're all entirely technique driven. If I learned anything from 40 years in show business, it's that you don't need talent. You need technique. I look forward to sharing my life's work with you. a life's work that is transferable, a life's work that is duplicatable, a life's work that will empower you to win the recognition of people who will fall in love with you, who will offer you job opportunities you've never had, allow you to generate the income and freedom to live a life of consciousness that you've never been able to embrace, to become a master communicator, full of humor and life and love. I'm Larry Wilson, father, husband, author, speaker, and trainer, with over 4 decades of experience speaking and performing on stages around the world and on TV. I would love to gift you some of my life's work online now, where you'll receive free trainings, motivation, and other priceless gifts that will open the doors for you to experience your life in HD.
So, Larry, that is quite a history you have there, and what a beautiful family.
Oh, thank you. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased to have them. I never expected to have a family like that. I just lucked into that. So thank you.
That sometimes happens, doesn't it? Next thing you know, we have children, and they change our entire life.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
It's been the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, I think the best thing that ever happened to all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful transformation. And that's kind of what we're here for today on this show, is to help bring our viewers a level of transformation in their life financially. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't know what it looks like on the other side of this. For me, it looked like maybe StreamYard was having a little trouble streaming the video. And all I could think of was, this is a perfect introduction to what we're talking about today, which is the difference between earning a living in real life, or, as we all find ourselves now, having to do stuff online. And
that's right.
I don't mean to get ahead of myself here, and I should really let you take the lead, but the stuff we're going to talk about really came about by necessity, being forced into this lockdown, having to look at new ways to deal with technology.
Yeah, I agree. You know, in this day and age, when we're dealing with so many interesting occurrences that I don't think any of us ever expected, at least not so soon, it's important for people to learn how to do more virtually and to learn how to reach people and touch people, even though you can't actually touch them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think you're an absolute expert at that. And I've learned so much from you, and it's just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. When people hear the way you're talking, it makes me sound much smarter than I really am.
You're brilliant.
Well, you're very kind. But all the things that I've learned, I learned the hard way. I just did everything wrong.
Yes.
And I kept saying, well, that's another thing that doesn't work. And eventually, you would think this is very obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me. Eventually, I realized, oh, I should be paying attention to all the things I learned in all these years in show business. And that's when things really turned around for me. I saw that I've been working with the best communicators in the world. And then I thought, oh, of course, they get everything they want. And it seems almost effortless for them. They don't seem to be suffering or struggling or whatever. And that's when sort of the origin of Wilson Method is. I started to lay out that stuff. And, I made the mistake, I think, that many people, maybe who are trying to create things like this do, which is, I thought, I have to show people something special that takes real talent to be able to do. And then I realized, oh, that's so dumb. I can't teach people to be talented, right?
That's right.
I don't know how to do that. What I can do is teach people technique. I can teach them And that's really why I created this Wilson method system, is that anyone can do it. And
That's
whereas, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, please.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's important because a lot of us entrepreneurs, we go through all these challenges because we're trying to recreate the wheel, like you said. And
Right.
once we finally figured out, if we can pay attention to some mentors, like one that we have in common, Joel Bauer, fantastic mentor, and all the
Absolutely.
mentors you talked about in your showbiz history, it kind of helps us put things into place and helps us to fast track instead of spending the 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years sometimes to make it to success.
Man, you just put your finger on it. It is Joel Bauer. Joel and I were driving in his car, and he just asked me some questions about stories of the people I'd worked with. And as I was talking to him, I could see something going on in his brain. He suddenly said, "That's what you should be doing." And I was a little slow on the uptake. I was like, "What?" He said, this is what you have to offer. And as soon as he said it, it just clicked into place. He said, all these things you learned, that is what you can teach people so easily. Anyone can do it. And of course, he was right. And that was really the
Yes.
origin of the Wilson method.
Yeah, absolutely. He delivers so much value and so much authenticity in the way he can extract what it is we're really designed to do, and to help us implement that. And it's amazing. I just it's been life changing having a mentor like him, and
Oh,
life
yeah.
changing meeting somebody like you that can help me understand um, that I've been told all my life that I wasn't funny, and maybe I'm not, but you helped me understand that I have a genuine funniness to me in a dry kind of way, and that that genuine thing and being original is what brings people to us.
Absolutely. There's no question that what you just said is absolutely 24 karat gold. That really is the truth. And
Right?
uh, all of us, it's very easy for you to think you're the only one who feels this way, but we all feel this way.
Is
We
that right?
all, yeah, we all
Wow.
feel, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not funny enough, or I'm not glib enough, or I'm not witty, whatever it may be. I'm
Right.
not tall enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. Whatever it is, this is part of the human condition. And when you,
Yes.
we see so many people in our lives who are trying to either conceal that or be something they aren't. When you let go of that, and
Yes.
when you see certain people who are magnetic, and I'm thinking of these people who are big stars I work with, all of them weren't trying to be anyone except themselves.
Right.
And I think I even I think I mentioned that Oscar Wilde quote to you. Oscar Wilde's quote of saying,
Yes.
"Be yourself. Everyone else has been taken."
That's
It's
right.
really
That's awesome.
it's really true. And all
It
the
is.
people I think of, I immediately think of, so funny, um, when when I think of someone like Elvis Presley. You see Elvis Presley on screen, on television, where you can't look away from him. No one can upstage him except one person. When you see Viva Las Vegas and you see him with Anne Margaret, suddenly you forget the king of rock and roll is on screen, because
I bet.
she is, and I'm telling you, not only was she the nicest person, and I'm always delighted when someone I meet who's that famous turns out to be a really, really nice person. So sweet,
Yes.
so down to earth. But she's not trying to be anybody except her. And I'm
Right.
sure throughout her career, there are people who said, oh, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should
Yes.
whatever, you should try to be more like this. And whether it was on someone's advice or whether it was her own idea, I don't know. But there's nobody else like her, never will be. I think of all these people I worked with who, Sammy Davis Jr., never, ever going to be anybody else like that. Never.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it's interesting, but you put your finger on it when you said, when they can see your authentic self. And I'm telling you, Dave, I'm sure that people watching this, everyone thinks, well, I have a deficit of some kind. Everyone feels
Yes.
that, right? I
Yes.
worked with a woman once who was a stand-up comic who had a terrible stutter. And when
Wow.
I'd never met her before, we worked together. She comes on stage, and when I heard this, I thought, oh dear, this is going to be, but she very cleverly just accepted it and made little jokes about the fact that she was, and suddenly I saw the audience just fall in love with her because she wasn't trying to be and the fact that she was stuttering and the way she'd crafted her material made her hilarious. She
That's
was so
awesome.
funny. Yeah. And by the end of the show, I had to follow her, and I was very nervous about it because I thought, they don't want to see me.
They don't want to see you now. That's funny.
I honestly don't remember how I did, but all I remember is her. And if someone can do that, if someone can go out on stage who has a speech impediment and not only rock the room, but make everyone fall in love with you, it's because we have a tendency to think, boy, I jumped ahead, and I hope this is okay. We're getting into some very
Fine. Yeah,
deep
it's fine.
stuff
It's
here.
good stuff.
Well,
Yes.
one of the things about Wilson Method is there's a lot of layers to it, but ultimately, I want people to realize that the actual words they're saying are not as important as the way they're saying them.
I agree.
And I never want you to take my word for it. If you look at people who are extraordinary communicators, and I don't want to lead the witness, I'd like anyone who's watching this to think in their own mind, oh, who do I think is? You'll realize that it's not always the words. Now, there's some people who are brilliant speakers. If you look at something like Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, this is an unbelievable piece of writing.
Yes.
Extraordinary piece of writing. So, yes, if your material is incredible, that's a good thing.
Yes.
But I'm sure that Lincoln gave speeches that were either extemporaneous or maybe not as well written as Gettysburg Address. It's the quality of the speaker. It's how you're communicating.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I've definitely been working on that over the last year, and I have a long way to go, but you've certainly been helpful in that area.
Well, thank you. I would think, though, that anyone who's watched the show regularly can see the difference. I can see it.
Great. Yeah. Certainly I'll get better as we keep broadcasting. Hopefully we're planning to go live every week now with one of the segments of our shows.
Oh, that's
And
great.
yeah, and we're just so happy to have you on. So in just a moment, we're going to get started with the interview right after this real quick break. All right. So Larry, how does your extraordinary performing experience on the level where you were invited to perform at the Magic Castle help you as an entrepreneur?
Well, I actually think the answer is reversing your question. I think it's my skills as an entrepreneur are what have led to my success as a performer. It
Okay.
took me many, many years to understand that whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a performer, whatever it is, it's about your communication. Now, I know that's very easy for me to say, and it can sound very glib on my part, but the truth of the matter is, it is the things I learned as an entrepreneur, watching people modeling their behavior sometimes, like you say, there were mentors who were generous enough to say, oh, here's a way that may work better for you, or this could actually
Right.
be more successful. That those are the things. you know, my career has been so peculiar, Dave, for so many different reasons. But I love magic, and that's why I started doing magic, because it's fun. It's really fun. But I realized when I started doing television, and I started doing it very early in my career, which confused everyone, including me, I realized, oh, it's not really the magic that they're interested in. It's me.
Right.
And this is exactly the same for entrepreneurs. You tell me whatever it is, you have a product, you have a service, whatever it is, really and truly, they're interested first in you. You may have
Absolutely.
the fountain of youth pill, or you might have a perpetual motion engine for a car. I don't know what it is. But if there's something about you that doesn't connect with us, then it doesn't matter how incredible the thing is. And I think this took me a long time to learn. But I think a lot of
Right.
people think, oh, no, you build the better mousetrap. All that happens if you build the better mousetrap is you wind up with a house full of really great mousetraps.
Right.
Selling them, delivering them, getting them out to the world, it's a totally different thing. And that, building the mousetrap, is something you may do by yourself or with a team or whatever. That's different.
Right.
But connecting with people so that you can offer them whatever it is you have, that's communication.
That's right. That's a skill, and it's a learned skill. And luckily, we have people like you that can help us shortcut to doing that professionally and doing that on a level, like you said, that really connects. So
Well,
one thing go
Thank
ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No, I just appreciate that you get what I do.
Yeah, and one thing I neglected to bring up before we started the interview is those of you that stick around until the end of our show will receive some fantastic gifts. So make sure you stick around to the end of the show, and at the end of the show, we will give you a URL you can go to pick up your free gifts.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So, Larry, I know that you have these extraordinary performance skills. How do you empower your students so that they can take their business to a higher level?
Well, again, this is a really interesting question. I think you may have already explained it to your audience here, which is my skills are really no different than things that people do all the time. What you put your finger on that I think is important is I've been able to deconstruct the lessons from my life to be able to teach you what works, what doesn't work, to teach you how to use simple things that anyone can do. If they were complicated, Dave, I couldn't do them. That
Right.
anyone can do. And the more you do them, like you just said yourself about doing this broadcast, the more you do it, the better you get. So,
Absolutely.
in real life, we call this experience. In show business, we call this rehearsal. That's
Yes.
all it is we're going over these specific things. And as you said yourself, these are skills. That means they're duplicatable. It's like hitting a golf ball. It's like making an omelet. It's like anything. If you do
Yes.
it and someone shows you how to do it, like, again, you put your finger on it, you can eliminate 20 years, 30 years of doing what I did, which was making all the mistakes. That, I think, may be the real
Yes.
benefit of something like Wilson Method, is that you can leave all the mistakes behind and move right into the fast lane.
Yes. Very true. So, Larry, how is it exactly that you help people?
Well, I train people to communicate at a level that makes other people want to invest in them professionally and personally.
Great. What are the great results people get when they're working with you?
Well, there's some extraordinary examples of things that far exceeded what I thought was going to happen. I knew, and this is why I told your people at the beginning of this, I said, there's no question that your financial situation will improve if you use these things we'll be teaching today. How much, I don't know. But I'm always interested to see it. One person I think of is a woman named Patrice. I never know exactly how old people are anymore. She's definitely over 30 and probably over 35. Lovely woman. And she came to me specifically because she was up for a big, big job. And she knew she'd already been in for one round of interviews. And she knew that this was going to be very interview heavy, that they were calling her back for a second round and all these different bigwigs were going to be there. And she was concerned about her communication skills. And so we worked specifically on this. And after working with her, well, I don't know, maybe a day, I just said, oh, well, you've got this. And she said, well, thank you. I appreciate your confidence. I said, no, really, you've got this. She said, well, there's a bunch of people and there's some people more qualified. I said, okay. So she goes and does the second round of interviews and they call her back for a third round of interviews. And
Fantastic.
she third round of interviews and calls me and says, I got the job. I said, I know. She said, no. She said, I mean, I got it. I said, I know. She said, how could you know? I said, because I could tell working with you that you were taking this really seriously and working on the stuff. I said, in my mind, it was a fait accompli. It was just a matter of protocol, you know? It was just a matter of going through the motions to officially get the job. I said, but it was very clear to me you're going to get this. And she was over the moon. But it was all very simple stuff that she did. So to me, that's extraordinary.
It is.
Another student of mine from the Bay Area, who also is probably over 35. I never know how old people are. But he came to me specifically because he had a service and a live presentation service that he did that was very successful, but he had stalled at a certain level of pricing. And he just said, I can't get more than I'm getting. And I said, sure you can. Of course you can. And now I may be getting real far afield here, and I hope that you'll stop me.
No, it's good. It's good information, please.
Well,
yeah.
I hope if I go into the weeds. I said to him, when I was growing up, I was very close friends with Katie Segal. You know, the woman who was a peg on Married with Children, and then she was on the Sons of Anarchy. Fantastic. And I mean, she's everywhere. She's in film and television. She's everywhere. She's incredible. She's fantastic.
Right.
But I'll tell you something that you don't know about Katie. Katie, incredible actress, can do drama, comedy, can do anything. But here's something you don't know. She's an unbelievable singer.
Wow.
Now, most people don't know this.
Didn't know.
When we were growing up, I mean, incredible blues, R&B singer, just incredible. And when she started getting these jobs in show business, and I guess the real first big break was Married with Children, made her a huge star. One night I was at a party at her house, and I only remember this. It was in Beverly Glen in Los Angeles. I just remember because there was no parking in the Glen, so I had to park like a mile away and walk down to her. Wow. But at some point in the evening, we were talking. She said, "You know, I made a big mistake in my career." I said, "I don't think so, Katie." I said, "It seems to me like you've done everything." She said, "No." She said, "I'll tell you what mistake I made. I thought people who saw me acting and liked me and were hiring folks would see that I like singing and offer me these opportunities." And she said, "I should have said something." She said, "I should have asked for what I wanted." And I've never forgotten that, because it's so simple. And it comes back to this man, Stephen, from the Bay Area I was talking to you about before, who was telling me he couldn't. I said, are you asking for what you want? And he said, oh, yeah, yeah. And I said, well,
Great
tell me.
points.
So then he gave me a demonstration of him asking. And his version of asking was, this is great value, and it's really worth much, much more. And you can see that you're getting an incredible deal. And I said, was that you thinking that you're asking for a higher price? He said, well, yeah. I said, that's not asking. You're telling them, your opinion, and you're telling them your feelings about some stuff. I said, if you simply go to these same clients and say, I need a higher fee. In fact, I have to charge you more than I've charged you before. Here
Right.
is my new, I said, and he said, oh, I can't do that. So we worked on a lot of that and why that was and why that was difficult.
Yes.
Cutting to the end of the story, he got double his fee before when he did this. Now, this is such a small thing, but I hope that no one listening to this glosses over it and misses such a powerful lesson. If you ask for what you want, now this doesn't mean you have to be pushy. It doesn't mean you have to be abrasive or unpleasant. It doesn't mean you have to be creepy about it.
Exactly.
And all these negative pejorative terms that I'm using are the things inside our heads.
Yes.
Oh, somebody who's getting well paid for this job asking more. What a jerk. No, it's not a jerk. You're a jerk if you try to blackmail the company and say, if you don't pay me this, I'm going to take all our secrets. Well, that's not the way to do it.
Yes. Right.
But if you realize that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you stating what you want and asking for it. I know you've been paying me X all this time, and I love it here. I love this company. I'm doing so much. Don't say, I think, or you should really consider. No, say, I need to get paid more.
Right.
I need 2X. And when you pay me 2X, you're going to realize this is the bargain of a century. Because I'm really worth 10X. Right? So when you actually ask for what you want, and it's funny when, I think of Katie about that because it was such a simple thing. Now, she, of course, sings now and does stuff, but it's not the way she wanted to do it. And this is a frequent thing that happens in show business. Sometimes you get famous for something that's not your main thing, or sometimes you get famous for something that's not what you're really best at. Well,
right. Yes.
That's kind of the crapshoot that show business is. But
yeah, sounds like the military.
oh yeah,
you end up the same issue in the military. Yeah.
No, it absolutely is the same as in the military. And so the question is, I don't think you're old enough to remember this, Dave. There was a book in the 60s called The Teachings of Don Juan.
I've heard of it, yes. Yes.
And it's about an anthropologist who goes to Mexico and meets a native Mexican brujo, sort of a medicine man, and studies him and learns all the stuff. And at one point in the book, the anthropologist Carlos Castaneda says to this Don Juan, is this brujo, says, Don Juan, you're always talking about a warrior would do this, but a regular man would do this, or a regular man thinks this, but a warrior, he goes, I don't understand. What's the difference between a warrior and a regular man? And Don Juan says, well, a regular man sees everything as good fortune or misfortune. Said a warrior sees everything as opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, again, here in a
right.
tiny nutshell, are you waiting for people to do things for you? Are you waiting for people to take care of you or solve your problems? Or like David Don Hobley, are you just going to jump in and do it yourself?
That's right. You got to see the opportunity and jump in and get it done.
The people who do that, and that clearly comes from a military background, because that's something, nobody's going to come out here and take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. And
that's right.
You can see how that is the first step, and the next step is asking for what you want.
That's right. And I love how you were focusing on asking for what you want, and the back end of that about seeing your value. When you finally see your own value, your performance increases as well. So once you're being paid for your value, you're just going to be out of this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many levels. And sometimes, sometimes we intellectualize things and we think, well, if I do this or I do that or whatever. But truthfully, experiencing things is different than intellectualizing them. Just thinking about something is not the same as actually living it.
That's right.
And when, like you just said, as a perfect example, when you start getting paid commensurate with what you may feel you deserve, you feel different.
Right.
I wasn't. It's funny the things you're bringing out in me, Dave. Some of that I've never ever said in interviews before. It makes me. There's a famous a producer impresario from the 30s and 40s named Floyd Zigfield.
Interesting.
Who did these live spectacular extravaganzas on stage in New York, Zigfield Follies, with
interesting,
hundreds of gorgeous women in beautiful costumes, and somewhere I've seen some poster that says, through these portals past the most beautiful women in the world. And Flo Zigfield became synonymous with the world's most beautiful women and performers and stuff. And in some interview with Zigfield, someone was talking about these costumes your performers are wearing are unbelievable. The women in your show are wearing these costumes. And he started talking about, we have these made in France, and these headdresses cost so much money, and these blouses and these capes. And he said, and every one of them are wearing panties that are made of, that are hand woven lace from France, and they cost like hundreds of dollars. This is in the 30s when people are what?
Wow.
And someone said to him, Mr. Ziegfeld, I understand spending the money on all these costumes that the audience sees. He said, but what difference does it make what kind of underwear they're wearing? He said, the audience doesn't know. And Ziegfeld said, no, but they know.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's that thing of how it makes you feel. If you feel like your producer wants to spend hundreds of dollars on your under things because he considers you so valuable and special, it makes you feel different.
That's
and in
right.
turn, your performance is a much higher level because you're thinking, I'm someone really special. And truth be told, of course you are. Of course you're very special. Whatever it is you do, you don't have to be on stage to be special. I see people every single day doing things that are extraordinary. And you know them. I mean, I don't obviously people in the military, people who are first responders, people who are school teachers. I know a great many school teachers, and I think it's a very, very difficult job, especially because they're hampered sometimes by politics and regulations and all kinds of other.
Yes.
Every single one of them I know is only interested in teaching children.
Yes, my daughter happens to be a fantastic school teacher, and she just puts her entire heart and soul into those kids on a daily basis. The amount of time that she puts in is incredible.
This is a very tough job. Nobody does this job. They don't go saying, I'm going to make $1 million as a school teacher. That's not it.
No.
And so there are people who have extraordinary skills and abilities all around us. And even if it's something as simple as you prepare meals for your family. I have a teenage son, and I get up every morning to make his lunch. And at one point, he was teasing me about it or something. And he said, Why? You seem like you like doing this so much. I said, Yeah, I like doing this. I don't like getting up early. I said, but I like doing something that I feel I'm taking care of you. That makes me feel great.
Right.
And I don't know if he understood.
Kids
He's a
sometimes don't get it.
teenager. He just thinks
Right.
I'm, how old people are.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it is incredible. And you bring up a good point, Dave, about your own self-worth. This
Yes.
brings us back again to us being critical of ourselves, of us being insecure and
Mhm.
thinking, oh, I could never be worth that. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, well, it's very important. Now, in more intense um, live events I do with the Wilson method, I do a 2-day boot camp, or I did in the days when we
Yeah.
actually could get together live. And we go into a lot of this because it's very important to deconstruct that and understand why we would be so tough on ourselves when nobody else is. There's
Right.
nobody else saying, oh, you aren't worth this. That's you. And
Yes.
when you start to understand where that comes from, how it works, why it works, it's like, remember the fairy tale of Rumpelstiltskin? When
Yes.
the challenge is if she can name his name, then he disappears. And so eventually she figures out or tricks him into saying his name. So then she knows his name and he disappears. Many of our things that we impose on ourselves are like Rumpelstiltskin that way.
Yes,
When
they are.
you know exactly what I'm
Yes.
driving at here. When you start to understand them, they lose their power over you.
Yes, absolutely.
When you start to know how they work and break them down, suddenly you don't feel like you're under their control anymore. You can ask for any amount of money you want. You know what? If someone doesn't want to pay you that, they can say no.
Right. That's right.
And no harm, no foul. It doesn't mean no one has to have their feelings hurt. You don't have to take it personally because they're not talking about you and what you are worth as a person. They're just talking about numbers for money.
That's right.
It's very easy to fall captive to this idea that somehow money is real and X number of dollars is the most you could ever earn, or
Right.
I can never work for less than X number of this is not real. These are just
Right.
numbers. Now, I know people watching this may say, hey, man, I have to pay MasterCard this month. That's real. Well, yes, of course it is. But when you start to get into certain higher realms, bigger numbers, you think, wow, I'd feel really great dealing with those huge sums. No, I think when you do, you start to look at them and go, oh, these kind of don't mean anything. They're just numbers. If somebody
Yes.
says, yeah, we need $100,000 and you have $100,000 to pay them and you make an electronic transfer of funds or you write them a check, like maybe 500 years ago, if you had to actually have gold and hand it to someone, it might have felt differently. I don't know. But
Right.
these ideas that we have in our head about our worth, same way, they're
Yeah. And the more self worth you have and the more money you start to make, you start to realize that you don't have to be in competition with anybody else. You only need to be in competition with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Truly, if you can keep that in mind, it frees you to do things you never thought you could do.
Right.
When you have that thing that, oh, I'm fighting against this person or I'm competing against that person, that's such a distraction from the work you really
Yes.
need to be doing. And,
It is.
it's, pardon me, it's a delightful distraction,
It is. And that brings us to our next question. And that is, what has been your biggest challenge in business and how did you overcome it?
I would imagine it may be common for everyone watching this. My biggest challenge, I would imagine, is the same that so many people have. And that is, how do you get the word out about what you have to offer?
Yes.
I know that there may be people watching who aren't sure what their gift is. That's possible. I can see that.
That's right. Absolutely.
But fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. For me, that was never a problem. I always had a very clear idea. Oh, this is something, whether it was as a performer or when Joel Bauer really opened my eyes to the potential of the Wilson method communications training.
Yes.
So what I had to offer was not difficult, but how do you get the word out?
Yeah.
And obviously someone watching this will say, well, yeah, Larry, it's easy for you to say. You're on Dave's show and there's thousands of people watching. This is obviously a tremendous blessing. And
It
this is
is.
obviously a really great way to get your message out.
It is. Absolutely.
But there again, I just want to say, people think, well, yeah, but I don't know Dave Don Hobley, and I have not traveled all over the world doing all the stuff you've done. You don't need to.
That's right.
You know somebody. Maybe you just know people on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat, or I keep trying to make up some name for some new thing, some new social media. But if you reach out to those people, and you have to do something a little strange,
Hmm.
a little difficult, you may have a hard time doing this. You have to ask them to help you.
Yes.
Now,
That's
if
key.
you just suggest to them that this would be helpful, nothing's going to happen. If you tell them about your fantastic program and hope that they will see what you need and offer to help you, not likely to work either.
Nope.
Now, I don't mean to make this sound like a panacea, asking for it. It's not the answer to everything, but it is a very important and simple tool.
Yes.
When you asked how I overcame this, it's when I started to ask people that I knew, could you help me with this? And
That's right.
almost invariably, they said, happy to. And then I didn't really know you, Dave, but then you were smart enough to ask me, would you be on my
Yes.
show? And I was like, would I be on your show? I'd be thrilled to be on your show. Be
And what an
fantastic.
honor it is.
Well, you're very kind. It's an honor for me because, if somebody had me on their show and their show is really about cooking, well, I'd have a good time. I'd be glad to be there. But
Right. Yeah.
it wouldn't necessarily be as good a match, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, It might be, maybe there's someone who's interested in cooking and has an idea of creating a cooking training of their own. Well, I could certainly help them with that. But in your case,
Yes.
this show here is so perfectly matched with what I have to offer.
Yes, it
Because,
is.
and I should also emphasize, I don't think I'm the only person who could help. I'm just one of the people that Dave, And I'm sure they all have different ways that they could teach you things.
Yeah. And that's
But
what's great about what we're offering here with Prosperity Insider. We call it the live cycle. And the Prosperity Insider live cycle is that combination of health, wealth, and wisdom needed to cut down people's time to success, 15 to 30 years. And you are a perfect fit for our show. And we're very grateful to have you on.
Well, thank you. I mean, I take it even one step further because I've seen some of the other people that you've had on here. They have different expertise from different fields.
Yes.
And the idea
Right.
of getting insiders, like you say, is an incredible way to accelerate this learning curve.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, you could go on Google, I guess, and Google whatever it is you want to learn. But not only will there be 12 million answers that come up, and you have no idea of knowing one, who knows what they're really talking about, or who knows what's valuable, or you find someone who's a genius, but their communication is terrible.
That's right.
And I just saw this thing last year, and I think you may have it in one of the pieces of video I sent you, of Warren Buffett. He was being interviewed, and this young interviewer said to him, what can you do to, what advice could you give entrepreneurs? And he said, oh, that's simple. There's one easy thing you can do right now that will increase your value by at least 50%. And this interviewer said, yes. He said, improve your communication skills, both
That's right.
written and verbal. And the thing that Buffett said that just blew my mind, he said, it doesn't matter how smart you are. If you cannot transmit that information, he said, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. Nothing happens.
That's right. That's key. That's fantastic. Thank you, Larry. You bring so much value to everything you teach and value to the show. And what would you say is the accomplishment that you're most proud of in business so far?
Well, now I'm not supposed to say this. Let me just preface this by saying I'm not supposed to. But you may also get the idea that, I mean, and I hope no one misunderstands. I'm just not that focused on money. Obviously, money can be an enormous comfort at times. But and I don't have anything against money. I think it's great. But it's not as interesting to me as other things are. Right. So I'm prefacing. If you ask me what my greatest accomplishment is, I've had a couple people who've trained with me in Wilson Method who came for business reasons and then had extraordinary personal experiences. There was a young guy from Germany flew to LA to train with me and got great, incredible value and learned some incredible stuff and I offered to give him a ride back to the airport when he was leaving because I had to go down there, I think, to meet somebody else. And in the car, we were just talking about some personal things about his home life. I didn't think it was a big deal. I think basically all I was saying is, yeah, you can use these same things you learn for business with your home life, with your family. About a month after he got back, I got this video from him saying, this was incredible. He said, at first I wasn't sure about the training, whether it was worth the time and money. He said, but it was incredible. I got all this great. He said, but something unexpected happened. He said, when I was back about a couple weeks, I realized that I was talking with my wife about things that we'd never talked about in 15 years of marriage. Wow. He said, now, to me, this is an extraordinary accomplishment. And he said, I didn't realize at first I was using all this Wilson Method stuff because it's so natural, it just becomes sort of automatic, which is hopefully the goal. But then I'll tell you another thing in the same way. I sound like such a sentimental sap, Dave, but I'm just telling you, there was a couple came to my 2-day boot camp, but the night before, the woman called me, and she was very tearful and said she wasn't going to be there. That her husband was, but she wasn't going to be. And I said, "What?" She just said, "Well, we're breaking up." And I was really shocked because I thought they'd been together forever and they seemed really good together. But it's not my job. My job is, I'm not a therapist, not my job to
Right.
tell people what they should do or what they should say to people, just how they can communicate more effectively. And I said to her, well, and she said, well, could I apply this credit? I said, you can. I said, I'll be happy to refund your money. You can use it another time. You can do whatever you want. I said, that's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is you. I said, have you thought about, I know this sounds weird, but maybe coming to the 2-day boot camp anyway? And she said, I thought about it, but I can't be in the room with him. And I said, okay, I understand. I said, I just want you to know that you have carte blanche with me. If you change your mind, great. But I thought, well, so the next morning, the husband showed up and he was very professional, and, he didn't really say anything about it. But as we were just about to go and he looked over my shoulder with this weird look on his face, I turned around. There was the wife.
Wow. Great.
And she looked shaky, but she looked brave. And she came in. They didn't sit together. They sat on opposite sides of the room. They both behaved themselves. But as is 2 days, 2 intensive days.
Right.
By the end of the second day, something seemed to be happening. And then they sent me a video that just said, Larry Wilson saved a relationship.
That's amazing.
When I hear myself say,
Transformational. Yeah.
I sound like a Hallmark holiday Christmas special.
No, that's important. That's part of communication. It helps you in your personal life, your professional life, and literally transforms you.
I think so. But
Yeah.
all I can say is, when you ask me what's my greatest accomplishment, I think it'd be great if I could help people make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. What a great thing. But to me, it pales in comparison. If 2 people who really care about each other but have difficulty communicating, if I can help them overcome that,
It's amazing.
seems so much more important to me. That
That's
seems,
right.
the money comes and goes, and you have to pay for electricity and gasoline and food and all. It goes. But a relationship that you have with someone you care about, that lasts forever.
That's right. So that is fantastic stuff. That right there is what I call life juice. I mean, it just really, helps people in all facets of their life. So, Larry, how did having that core strategy play into achieving accomplishment?
I'm going to have to ask you to clarify that question a little bit. I'm not completely sure I know. You mean the core focus on...
How did having a core strategy help you?
Well,
All your accomplishments that you had. Sorry.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. No, I wasn't sure if you're referring to the example I'd given you before about these people.
Yes.
But in terms of Wilson method, it was very clear to me that everything worth having in life begins with communication.
It does. Absolutely.
And having that core focus, and again, it's interesting, this must have to do with your military background, I think, because having that clarity about your core mission makes decision-making so much easier.
It does. Absolutely.
You can hold it up next to it. Does this serve the mission? Does it not serve the mission?
That's right.
It doesn't have to be, a political question or a moral question. It's like, I have a mission.
Right. And is that the service to the mission? Is that going to help towards our success? The answer is more clear, for sure.
Exactly right. And again, clarity is our goal in Wilson Method. That it's funny how sometimes, again, pardon me, I'm going far afield here, but when we talked before about our insecurities that make us do some things sometimes that really are not in our best interest, do not serve our mission.
Right.
And, sometimes in our communication, when we get nervous, when we feel like, I better make myself sound smart, we start to use words and phrases and communicate in a way that is not effective at all. But
Right.
we're, there's a process and a protocol that must manifest itself in the totality of. I'm thinking, I don't know what you're saying, pal. Okay.
Yes.
I get you using a lot of big words. I don't know what you're saying. Well, that's the language of insecurity. When we use acronyms, that's the language of insecurity. That's because we're afraid that if we don't sound really complicated and mysterious,
Yeah.
people will think, why, he's just a guy with a suit and tie.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Well,
You don't touch people personally at all when you do that.
Exactly.
Well,
A guy with a suit and tie, that's where your power comes from, when they feel like you're just like them.
right.
And of course, we're all the same. If we weren't all the same, then certain things like Shakespeare would not continue to capture people's imaginations 600 years after it's
Yes.
written.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. That's
Now,
right.
here's a guy who's a great communicator. And the language sometimes is not familiar because I think it's Middle English. But if you make a little effort to read, you see the things he's talking about are so universal. Humans, I don't care where you're from, human beings share these feelings, these hopes
Yes.
and dreams, these aspirations. That's what connects us. So that's
It
a great
does.
thing. I don't know why. I'm afraid I may sound like some kind of goofball on this show, but that's all right.
No, I love it. Yeah, you're great.
For some reason, I think of a line from Romeo and Juliet when Juliet says, or maybe it's Romeo, I'm sorry. One of them says, how silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
I hadn't heard that in a few years.
Well, just the idea that when you love someone, it's different at night than it is during the day. You hear their voice, and it is like music.
Yes.
Now, this guy wrote this 600 years ago. So how did he know that we would feel this way? Well, because, like a brilliant communicator, he understood that people's feelings are universal. Our experience is universal. The details may be different. I know, were in Desert Storm. So someone who wasn't in Desert Storm might know nothing about that. But your feelings as a human being are connected to all of us.
That's right.
And if you I say in Wilson Method, one of the things I talk about are 3 C's to connect with people before you've spoken a word, so that you can communicate your message and create authentic bonds.
That's amazing. That's an amazing system. Absolutely.
That's really all it is. And when you connect with people so you can communicate your message and create authentic bonds, whatever you're offering, people are going to pay attention to.
That's right.
you know, uh, I'm trying to think of an example. You may be offering the world's greatest ice makers, and people at the North Pole may not have any interest in them,
That's right.
but they'll pay attention if you communicate that way. Now, they may
Right.
say, we have a lot of ice makers here. Do you have any kind of portable space heaters or something? But that first step of being able to really connect with them, and that's about the human experience and realizing
That's right.
we're
And
all
that's
more
absolute. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that we're all more similar than we are different.
We are very similar. And that's really key. And that really drives us into our next question. And that is, what are the 3 to 5 key skills, moves, or techniques that protect against failure with your method?
Well, there's a number of them that I can think of. And especially if we're talking particularly about the internet, is a different animal.
It
And I've been
is.
focused on that a great deal. This remote control revenue program I started is just about online. I'd never intended to do this, but last March, when everything fell apart, I had so many friends who lost their jobs instantly. And I thought, I've got to do something because people are freaking out. And I think there are ways to deal with this that are better than freaking out.
Yes.
So, with remote control revenue, I'm focusing on some Wilson method techniques that work powerfully in the real world, but also are very fundamental for online interactions.
And now that's critical.
I think it is. I think it absolutely is. One of them is eye contact, also facial affect, which of course includes smiling. And I'll
Right.
tell you something interesting. It's funny, Dave. For years, when I was performing, I was in casinos and Caesar's Palace and Harrah's and MGM
Yes.
and Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, Reno, Atlantic City. But I only worked like an hour a night. So I had a lot of free time on my hands. And I played a lot of poker. And I would wind up playing with some incredible poker players, way above my
Yeah.
pay grade, way above. But because I was friendly with them, sometimes they would take pity on me and they'd pull me aside at some point. I remember this one guy in particular who said, "Oh, you want to go grab a sandwich at the coffee shop?" I said, "Yeah." And so we're sitting. He said, "You don't really understand this game at all." And I was like, "Yes, I do." He said, "No, you really don't." And so he had a napkin and he started writing on this napkin. He said, "Here's what," and I mean, he was teaching me unbelievable stuff. I had no way of knowing.
That's
But
amazing.
in the course of playing a lot of poker, I would meet a lot of different people. I met now I don't know if this is true, but I met a guy who I was told was a FBI profiler. Or no, sorry, he was not a profiler, but he was some kind of intelligence person, like a
Wow.
interrogator, maybe something like this. And somehow we got into some conversation. And somehow the thing about I know what started it. I saw him in a huge hand, a pot. My friends from Louisville, Kentucky would say this pot was so big a show dog couldn't jump over it. And it was gigantic. I don't know how much was in that pot. But it just came down to this guy who was, I thought, the profiler guy and some other player. And I thought, oh, the other guy had made some big bet, and the FBI guy was thinking, and then he called them, and it turned out the guy was bluffing, and he won the spot. So I pulled this guy away later and said, okay, if you want to tell me to buzz off, that's fine. But I want to know, how did you make that call? How did you realize? Were you just guessing? Were you just flipping? The guy said, no, are you kidding? He said, you didn't see it? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything. So he said, didn't you see that I kept talking to that guy? And I said, yeah. While you're trying to figure out whether to call or not. He said, what do you think I was doing? I said, I don't know. He said, I was trying to get him to react to what I was saying. And I said, okay. And I said, I still don't understand. He said, I wanted to see him smile. I said, okay, I still don't get it. He said, a genuine smile is symmetrical. He said, when that guy smiled, it was lopsided and asymmetrical. So I knew he was lying. That's why I called him. And, you know,
That's funny.
like, what? Right? So I realized, oh, yeah. Now, you know, this also brings up, I'm jumping around here so much, Dave. I apologize if I'm.
That's okay. It's good value. You got a lot of gold nuggets here.
Well, so much of our communication is semiotic. And semiotic means nonverbal, but sometimes people think, oh, you mean body language. Well, certainly body language is part of semiotics, but, you know, a stop sign is semiotic.
Yeah.
Any signal or information we get that is not spoken is semiotic. And what I realized with this poker playing situation was what this guy was saying is there's all these semiotic clues that are coming out. Now, you may think that's fine, but I don't play poker. No, that's not my point. My point is that when you deal with people over the internet, sometimes all they have to go on is your face.
Right.
And your face is transmitting all this semiotic information. Now, you may say, well, I'm not an actor, Larry. I can't. No, I don't want you to act. I actually want you to be authentic.
Right.
And you may say, well, so how am I supposed to smile about something if I don't know these people? And I will tell you another story that's so incredible. It doesn't seem like it could be true, but in fact, it actually is. You mentioned, Dave, that I performed a lot at the Magic Castle.
Yes.
One night, now the Magic Castle is a private club for magicians in Hollywood. You have to be a magician or a guest of a magician to get in there. So one night I'm there performing with my stage troupe, and one of the hosts comes backstage and says, oh, there's someone who'd like to say hello to you. And I said, okay, no, have him come back. The door opens and there's Cary Grant.
Wow.
And he looks exactly like himself.
Imagine that.
He's immaculately groomed. He's beautifully dressed in a tuxedo. My troupe and I are sort of huddled together. I've met the biggest stars in the world, Dave, and I'm never really, it doesn't affect me. I just think of them as people, except for this once. He looked like Cary Grant. And now I'm going to do a really bad impression of his voice. So just so you know, I don't do impressions.
Here we go.
He's like, oh, I thought that was fabulous. You were wonderful. And we're all just frozen. We couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
So he was so nice. He was so gracious. And we talked for, well, I honestly don't know, because it was a very out-of-body experience, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And then he finally said, oh, you know, I'm going to let you get back. I know you have another show you have to do. And we were just sort of like, and then as he left, as sort of as a goodbye, he turned to me and said, Larry Wilson, think good thoughts. And I went, okay. And I said, why? He said, because it shows on your face.
Yes, it does. That's amazing. Bingo.
And I thought, of course, right? When you are dealing with people, obviously, if you know them, I feel like I know you much better now, Dave. But if I didn't
Yes.
know you, if this was completely cold, one thing you can always do, and this is very important when you're dealing with people online, is if you think of something that gives you a good feeling. It doesn't mean about that person you're talking to. I
Right.
can I can think of my son when he was like 7 running through the house in the morning. My wife was going to make him breakfast, something, and he came screeching through. And my wife stopped and said, "Do you want something to eat?" And he said, "Yes," and ran out. And then he ran back in a moment and she said, "What?" He said, "I don't know." Ran out, came running back. And he said, uh, "Waffle, please." Ran out. And then a second later, he came running back and said, "It's a pleasure doing business with you," and ran out.
That's interesting.
Well, your reaction is say, when I think of that, it makes me laugh.
That's
If I
funny.
think of that, it brings a smile to my face. I can't help it. When I think of him, he's 7 years old, pleasure doing business with you. So if I just think of that, it's going to show on my face.
Yes. And that's amazing because quite often with the lifestyle that I'm leading right now, I'm cramped for time and I'm pushing and pushing and pushing to get my show work done and get the shows out. And sometimes you just have to you have to pre-frame yourself. And it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. You think about those wonderful things that have happened in your life, or maybe something that has to do with the show, and it changes your whole perspective. It changes your facial expression, and it just brings you back to being grounded and being genuine. So that's
Absolutely.
great stuff.
And you bring up, you make me think of another thing that I don't usually talk about, but because you're touching on this stuff, in terms of pre-framing, something that I use regularly is I will say out loud to myself a statement about what's going to take place. Obviously, I want it to be positive. So
Yes.
if I'm going in to pitch a show to some executives for something, before I walk in, I'll say, "This is going to go great. These people are going to love me and love this idea." Now, I want to make sure that your viewers don't think I'm suggesting something magical or
Right.
mystical.
Yes.
I'm talking about suggesting something that stimulates a feeling in you. And that feeling shows, it comes out. Now,
Yes.
it's not guaranteed. It's not some voodoo charm. But if you've just said, "This is going to go great," when you walk in the room, semiotic signals are being sent to the
Yes.
people in the room. They don't necessarily understand them. They don't necessarily even understand that they're getting those signals. All they know is, "I like that guy." If you ask them, I can tell you, I've seen so many casting sessions for films, for TV, for live shows, where the person who winds up getting the job, they made the decision the second they walked in the door. Later on, casting director will go, "I like that guy." The second we saw, yeah. The second he walked in, and that's the person they wound up going with. Now,
Right.
there could be a lot of different reasons why it is. I'm
I've
just
had that
suggesting,
experience.
right? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not load the odds in your favor if you can? Why not
Yes.
go ahead and let your face, since that's all we have to go on the internet, let it send some unspoken communication to people. And, the reason I brought up this thing about this FBI guy before is if you try and fake that, they won't understand why they're put off by you, but they will be put off. If you
Yes.
go in going, "Hi, everybody. So glad," that's you trying to manifest something. I don't want you to try. I want you to stimulate real feelings in yourself that produce the effect we want, that produce genuine expression on your face. I'm really glad
Yes.
to be here. I'm not pretending I'm glad. I'm not really wishing I was down at the neighborhood bar getting drunk. No, I'm really glad to be here.
Right.
It's a different
That's
feeling.
awesome. These are amazing tools. So many gold nuggets that you've brought up here. I'm so grateful. I hope that everybody gets a chance to listen to the whole show and really digest what it is that you're delivering here, because it's deep. And if people watch this more than once, they're really going to get a lot of value out of this. So, Larry, with that said, how has leveraging these proven strategies that you've talked about affected your earning capacity?
Well, it's a great question. It's a very fair question. Um, uh, I can think of so many answers, but they may seem facile. They may seem like I'm not being serious. Maybe I'm not. I mean, I can tell you the first way, Dave, is I've never had a real job in my life. That
That's
I see
amazing.
it. To me, that seems like an incredible accomplishment. Everything
Yes.
about that is just gravy. And that's all due to my communication skills. There's no question about it. But I'll tell you,
Shows.
I'll go even one better. My career, I mentioned before, has been so peculiar because sometimes other performers will see me and I can tell they're perplexed by the reaction I'm getting.
Right.
And sometimes they'll come up to me and ask me, sometimes not in the most polite way or complimentary way. And I'm always happy. I'm sharing them with them exactly like I am with you here. I'll just tell them.
Uh-huh.
But I can see that they totally reject it. They think that can't be it. It has to be something like the aftershave you're wearing, or it has to be you used 3 words that started with the letter M in a row. What the things that I'm explaining seem too simple, right?
Yeah,
It can't be as simple as that, but it is.
it
And
is.
when you ask me, I'll tell you a funny story. I think it's funny. I have to be careful the way I say this because there are certain uh, non-disclosure agreements that I sign. So
Yes.
I
There's a
think I
lot of
can
those in the talent industry.
I think I can say this elliptically enough. I did a television appearance for a big late night show a little while ago, and was very handsomely compensated for it. And I had some of my stage troupe. I have assistants that I work with and have worked with for years who are fantastic, incredible performers. And they were with me doing something, and there was some documents that had to be completed to make sure that I got paid. And there was some other, I don't know if they were tax ID number, something like that. And they were supposed to send something to my phone that I was going to initial and send back. And they made a mistake and sent it to one of my assistants who I perform with. Now,
Oh
it
no.
was right. It was it was privileged proprietary information. I like I don't usually talk about money or anything like this, but it showed how much I was getting paid for this. Of
Yeah.
course, all of them were getting well paid as well, but I was getting paid a princely sum.
Yes.
And I was there when this guy got on his phone, and I said, "What is it?" I looked over at him, and the color drained out of his face when he saw how much I was getting paid. And he looked at me and said, "Oh my God." Now, this is someone I love dearly, who I've worked with for years and hope to for the rest of my life. I love dearly. So I don't want you to
Mhm.
think he was being insulting. He didn't mean to.
Right. Yeah.
But spontaneously, he said to me, he said, how did you get them to pay this much? He said, you're not worth this.
Oh, he
And,
did not.
and I
He did
burst
not
out,
say that.
I
Oh my
burst out
goodness.
laughing. I said, of course I'm not. I said, nobody's worth this much. I just told them I was. And he
He,
looked at me. I said, they could have said no. I said, or they could have said, we'll pay you half that. I said, but the way I communicated made it so clear that not only was I worth this, but that it was really kind of a bargain to get me for this price. And that they could have
gold
easily
nugget.
paid twice as much, 3 times as much, or maybe I would have said, you know what? You can't afford me at any price. I could have also said that. Probably not as good a strategy, but I could say anything. But I saw now I don't, sometimes things happen and there's no way of proving why they happened or if there's any connection.
Yes.
But this one young guy who worked with me, very shortly thereafter, started his own business in Los Angeles in the entertainment field that's been hugely successful. I don't know whether I had any impact on that or not. He didn't consult me about it, didn't ask about it. But when I saw the color drain out of his face, I realized that up to that moment, it was inconceivable to him that someone, now, he could think a Brad Pitt could be paid this sum of money, or Angelina Jolie, or, Taylor Swift, any famous superstar he could imagine.
Yes.
But that someone he actually knew and worked with could command a sum that was so princely that it made his circulatory system shut down for a moment. I think that may have been a breakthrough moment for him where he realized,
Yes.
oh, these are just numbers. There's no
That's
one
right.
who can say you aren't worth this.
That's right.
The worst possible thing they can do is say, well, I'm not going to pay that. Okay, fair enough.
That's right. It's a negotiating point, right? But
Absolutely.
like you said, if you communicate your value and then you have things to back it up that show that you constantly over deliver your value,
Mhm.
I mean, there's no reason for them to negotiate. It is what it is.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it brings up another point that's a new thing that has to do with the internet. And this is something I touch on in this remote control revenue, is that in the old days, or maybe in real life, I don't know for certain, I think people withheld a lot of information because
Yes.
they thought, well, if I give that information away, why would they pay me?
Yep.
This is a different game we find ourselves in now. And strangely enough, it seems to be almost completely the opposite. The more you
Yes.
give away for free, the more people are able to see your value.
That's right.
And I think unconsciously there's an idea, if this guy is giving this for free, what do you get when he's like charging you? When you pay
That's
him,
right.
think about, and as long as you make sure that you do deliver much
Yes.
more. And like you said, use the word over deliver, which I think is crucial now. One of the things we lose on the internet, we don't get dealing with people face to face. We get more semiotic reassurances and clues about who they are.
That's right.
So one of the ways we can compensate for that is by over delivering.
Absolutely.
It's so easily verifiable. This guy said he was going to give me 2 apples. He gave me 4 apples and an apple pie.
Yeah. Then
I
he
can
threw a
see
caramel apple in at the end, you know?
that was a caramel
Yeah.
apple. I mean, now it's verifiable. It's so easy to be able to go, well, look, you can see.
That's right.
This is what I had agreed to, but I got so much more. I think that
Exactly.
may be a very, very crucial element to earning revenue on the internet.
That's right. And I think you just may have answered my next question, which, what was the best strategy that you ever learned, and what impact did it have on your business?
Well, the best strategy, you know, the actress Betty White?
Betty White, she's wonderful.
She really is wonderful. She's
Yeah.
exactly like you see. What you see is what you get, for real. That's really her.
Mhm.
I did a TV show with her years ago. I can't remember what it was, but there was some point at which I think it was not on a part that was not on the air. They were going to introduce her. She was behind a curtain. She was going to come out and say something to the audience. I don't remember what it was, but I happened to be backstage there because I wasn't on yet. And I saw her go up to the curtain. The curtain was closed. And I saw her lips moving. Her eyes were closed. She was doing something. Then they introduced her, curtain opened, she went out, and they loved her. Everyone loves Betty White. Why
Yes.
wouldn't you, right? But they were so warm to her. They just loved her so. And when she came back, I said, I have to ask you, what were you doing? And she said, I don't know what you mean. I said, I saw you doing something before you went out through the curtain. And she said, oh, I was just using empathy. I said, well, Betty, I know what that word means, but I don't get what you're talking about. She said, well, just before I went out, she said, I just thought about what the people out there, what their lives might be like. Now, this was just before Christmas, I think. And she said, I was thinking maybe some of them are worrying about if they'll have money for Christmas presents, or if they'll be able to get together with relatives or whatever. She said, I just thought about what they were doing. She said, when you do that, then you're not adversaries. You're on the same team. You're on the same
Yes.
side. And so you're friends. And of course, that's the result she had when she walked. That's how they were reacting. Like,
Yes, that's amazing.
right now, that sounds so simple, but you need to practice it. I'm not saying,
Yes.
and I want to make sure you understand, I'm not saying you should learn to be a mind reader.
Right.
You're not, you're just imagining. It doesn't mean you're right. You may think, oh, I wonder. You're just trying to imagine what these people, if you're dealing with one person on the internet, or if you're stepping up to make a address to 1,000 people at some kind of presentation, if you just take a few moments to think about what they may be going through, what their lives are, it doesn't mean you're trying to
Yes.
figure out what questions they're going to ask you. That this is something different. It's just feeling what they feel. And the more you practice this, the better you'll get, until the point where
Yes.
it almost seems sometimes like you are a mind reader, but you aren't. You're just empathizing with human beings. And since we all are so similar, again, when you present yourself, they will be receiving semiotic information, and they don't know
Yes.
why. All they know is, I feel good about this person. I like this
Right.
person.
Yeah, that is a great, great strategy to use. I mean, just in everyday life, not just when you're on TV or on the internet. It just helps relate with people, helps bring you down.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I took this for granted. I'm glad you brought it up. Everything that I teach really works for all of life. It's not just about business.
Yes.
I've never heard
Yes.
anyone talking about any of the things I teach for business. I'm sure there must be someone somewhere. I've just never seen it. And maybe it's because it doesn't seem mysterious and exciting enough. I don't know. I'm not really that interested in mystery or excitement. I'm interested in results. I
That's what
want
matters.
That's what I think. I want to learn
Yeah.
things that can produce results, and I want to teach things that produce results. That's all.
Yes. So if you had to choose one single strategy of yours, what single strategy are you best known for?
I think I'm guessing, but something that I've heard a lot through my life is people saying that I was a good listener. And again, this is so fundamental. It has served me so well. It's now I'll tell you I, many years ago, a girl I knew took me to a party at the Playboy Mansion in Los
Oh
Angeles.
boy.
And she said, and we're there, and there's hundreds of people there. And she said, "Oh, I really want you to meet Hef." I said, "You know what? Hef doesn't want to meet me." She said, "No, he's great." No. Pardon me. She said, "You'll love him." So there's, everyone's trying to get Hef's attention there. Everyone's trying, So she sort of pulls me through it, goes, "Oh, Hef, this is my friend Larry Wilson I was telling you about." And he turns to me and goes, "Oh, hi." And, I just thought, okay, this is going to be a hi, goodbye. And he says, "Gail tells me you just graduated from University of California." I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "What was your major?" And I said, "Film and television production." And he said, "Oh," he said, "do you like film noir?" Now, this is a specific genre of film. And I said, "Yeah, I love film noir." And he said, "Do you like The Bad and the Beautiful?" I said, "You mean the greatest film noir ever made?" "Of course. Are you kidding me?" He said, "Isn't Gloria Graham the most luminous woman you've ever seen on screen?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Now tell me something. Why didn't she become a huge star?" And he said, "Well, I think because she didn't look exactly like other stars of that time. That, they were dark and she was blonde, and they had these sculpted faces, and she sort of had her." And next thing I know, I'm talking to Hef for, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes in the middle, and I suddenly look around. There's like hundreds of people around looking at me with daggers, like they want to
Yeah.
kill me. And I said, "Look," I said, "this has been so fantastic." I said, I don't mean to capitalize your time. I'm so sorry." I said, "But it was just so great to meet you." He said, "Oh, well, it's really great to meet you." I said, I hope I'll see you again sometime." And when I left, I thought, oh, no wonder this guy had such incredible success with women.
Yes.
When he talks to you, he listens to what you're saying.
Yes.
And his response makes it absolutely clear that he hears you and sees you.
That's
And
right.
I believe there's nothing more important to us in this world.
I
Conversely,
agree.
the worst feeling you can have is feeling like you're invisible. That's a dreadful feeling. And
Yes.
I walked away from this thinking, oh my God. And now, I've told this story and someone said, well, what if he didn't know anything about film noir or even filmmaking? Then I'll tell you exactly what he would have said. He would have said, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. Tell me, what do you find is the most interesting part about that?" Or he would have said, "Do you have specific genre film that you like better?" Now, it turns out, I didn't know, but apparently he was a gigantic film buff, very film. But you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be a
That's right.
genius. You have to listen.
Yes.
I mentioned Carl Malden before. One time in the middle of some conversation with Carl, like no big deal. I just, these things would pop up in my head. I said to him, can you tell the difference between a bad actor and a good actor? And he said, oh, sure. It's easy. I said, well, tell me. He said, well, a good actor, when they're in a scene with you, you may have been performing the scene every night on Broadway, like Carl did in Streetcar Named Desire for a couple of years, you know. Said, you may have done hundreds of performances, but they're listening to you like they've never heard this before. And they're listening like, how does this affect me? And what does this mean? And when you come to some important point, it's like they never heard it before. He said, bad actors are just waiting for when it's their turn to talk.
Yes.
I know, Dave, you have met people like this in your life.
Yes, many. I think we all have.
Well, yeah, of course. Well, when
And,
somebody...
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when I was stationed in Germany, at Rhein-Main Air Base in Frankfurt, Germany, I was downtown and I was wearing my cowboy hat at the time, and a guy said, "Oh, I see you got a cowboy hat on. Did you know Garth Brooks is around the corner?" And I said, "No." I said, "Are you kidding me? In Frankfurt?" Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, he's at Virgin Records right now. Let's go over there and get an autograph." So I just followed him over, and we walked around and got in line, and sure enough, that's one of the key things that I learned from you a moment ago, is that Garth Brooks, no wonder he's so successful, because he listened and to everything I had to say, and then had some things to say about it. We were talking, next thing you know, similar to you and Hugh Hefner, we were talking about bass fishing and our experiences with it, where we like to go in the South, and everybody around us was getting angry, So it's just, it really makes the difference between you and your success, obviously.
I mean,
Yep.
you will never, ever forget Garth Brooks. Ever.
Never. Yeah.
And you will never, ever forget the feeling you have about him.
That's right.
Now, think about if you could do this with every, and you can. Now,
Right.
sometimes there may not be time. Sometimes you're trying to get on a plane and they're closing the door, and you're passing a baggage handler. You may not have time to connect with him in a way that but you have opportunities all the time to communicate with people in a way. And if you're talking about doing business over the internet, in those situations, it doesn't matter whether they buy whatever you're offering or not. What matters is if you create an authentic bond with them.
That's right.
Then they will never forget you.
That's right.
And, I've had people who I've interacted with, and a couple of years go by and they reach out to me. I'm really interested in your Wilson method training. Can I still do it? Sure, of course. At the time, I thought they were interested, and then it turned out I thought they weren't. I thought, well, it's okay. But truthfully, for whatever was going on, it wasn't the right time for them.
Right.
But
that happens.
Didn't forget about me.
And that's an important point you make, is sometimes it's not the right time. And many times we find that it takes, like 6 points of contact before somebody can trust you enough to invest sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So connection, each time that you connect with them, is extremely important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it again, when we have bad feelings about this kind of stuff, oh, that person, what a cheap so-and-so, or oh, that person wasted my time, or oh, what I offer isn't valuable enough for people. All of that is just our insecurity. The truth of the matter is, we don't know what's going on with that other person. It may not be the right time for them for a lot of different reasons. Now,
right.
If what they really want is they just want more information, well, then it's your job to communicate more clearly, because, like I said, clarity is always our goal. Always our goal.
Absolutely.
If they don't
So-
understand something, it can't be their fault. It must be ours.
Yeah, totally. It's always our fault if they don't understand.
Yeah.
Key point there. Love the gold nuggets you're delivering here. So, what is the best number one strategy that you're implementing right now?
Well, I may be biased. I think it is this remote control revenue.
Good
And
stuff.
it's only because it happened almost by accident. I was not planning to do it. I did it because there's so many people I know who are impacted by this coronavirus lockdown. Then the response to it has been incredible, And for the time being, we're going to be doing business online. Now, I'm sure this will continue in the future. It's not like the internet's going away, but I don't want people to think that the past is gone. It's not.
Right.
This is a temporary situation we find ourselves in. At some point down the line, things will stabilize and become more normal. But we must survive. We must take care of ourselves.
That's right.
And, it's funny, those poker players in tournaments, poker players always would say, you can't win it if you're not in it. And by that, they meant if you make a bad play and get knocked out of the tournament, well, you're out. So you're always thinking about surviving. Well, right now, we find ourselves in an incredibly weird situation with this coronavirus.
Yes.
So, one of the things I emphasize with remote control revenues, I don't want to make it sound like I'm going to teach you something that you have to use in place of the thing you really love. I'm not saying you should abandon your dreams or the thing you have great passion for. It just means that in this temporary time right now, you may need to learn some new strategy.
Yes.
And if that carries you through, when things become more normal, great. But it also doesn't mean you can't use this even when things are normal. It also means you can't use all these Wilson method techniques like you've already identified, Dave, in real life.
Yes.
When things return to normal, everything I teach is just as applicable, probably even more powerful when you're able to get together with people face to face.
Yes. So you've delivered absolute gold nuggets throughout this entire interview, and I am so very grateful. And I know everybody that views this has viewed it during the show and will view it after the replay, or is going to find tremendous value. So many gold nuggets. How can they learn about your proven process?
Well, this Sunday, October 11th, at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a free training. Now, you might ask, how much does this free training cost? Well, I guess it's free. That's in the name, so it must be free.
Exactly.
Again, my greatest motivation here, hopefully, is to alleviate people's anxiety about the situation we find ourselves in. I know a lot of people are suffering a lot financially here. So
Yes.
if you'd like to learn some stuff, some specific stuff, I'll go into more detail than we're able to here. If you go to this link you've put up, I believe that's it. It's free, but virtual seating is limited. So if you're interested, I would jump on it immediately, because I see there's people coming in from Australia and London, someone I think from Malaysia last night. And I'll tell you what, to make it even more fun, I've said that anyone who registers and stays on for the entire. Oops, did we lose?
No, sorry
Transfer?
about that. The
No, no.
slide progressed. The slide progressed on me, and I hadn't noticed that it did that automatically. So
Oh, well,
sorry about that. Yeah,
no. I was just going to say that anyone who registers for this training this Sunday and attends live and stays till the end will be automatically entered in a drawing. I'll give one of you a $100 Amazon gift card. Just
that's
as a way,
amazing.
well, I'm just putting my money where my mouth is. Sometimes people need a little nudge to do something that's actually beneficial to them.
Yeah,
And there will be things for everyone who's there. I guarantee you that you will learn some things that you can start using immediately. Immediately.
yeah. I'm sure they already did during this broadcast. So imagine how much more you'll learn directly on Larry's webinar from the amazing Larry Wilson. I mean, he delivers so many gold nuggets, and I guarantee you, after having experienced the session that we had together, you guys are in for a huge, huge treat, especially at the price point that he's offering at to take a look at what he's offering. It's amazing. Super big gift. So, because you guys attended this broadcast today, we have a very special gift for you here as well. Now, Larry's got gifts that he's going to offer during his webinar as well. So make sure you register, and we'll get back to that. That was remotecontrolrevenue.prosperityinsider.com. And I did put that comment in the chat, so you can click on the link and register for Larry's webinar. And I want to make sure you receive a gift just for attending the show today. So if you go to awesomefreegift.com, that again is awesomefreegift.com, after the show or right now, you will also get my free book. It's actually worth $125 plus. I'm sure you're going to find a lot of value because it's really going to help you with business online, even offline. So it's called Online Business, Learn, Earn, and Leverage. And there's a tremendous amount of value in that book. And so make sure you check that out. And then make sure also you take action, today by registering for Larry's webinar at remotecontrolrevenue.prosperityinsider.com. Because you aren't going to want to miss it. Larry just delivers so many gold nuggets. Tell us a little more, Larry.
Well, I thank you very, very much for having me here because, like I say, I kind of feel like your show and my message fit together pretty perfectly. That I
Agreed.
see that people are here because they want to learn, like you said, things that will eliminate years of trial and error. That's the real tremendous advantage a show like this has to offer people is when you have insiders spilling their secrets. I urge your viewers to keep in mind with all of the stuff they see on every episode of your show. I love that at the beginning of the show, there's a title card that says, have pen and paper handy.
Yes.
This is so simple, but so smart. I have a tendency to approach a lot of trainings. And of course, this show is free, like my training this Sunday is free. But sometimes there'll be a training you're supposed to pay for. Whether it's free or whether I pay for it, I like to approach it thinking if I could learn one thing, just one thing, that would be great. That would be fantastic. When you approach it that way, suddenly you start realizing, well, shoot, I learned 6 things and I wrote them down as they're happening. Now, It's important to remember you have to implement these things.
Yes.
I have a friend who buys great books but doesn't read them. But he feels like he's ahead of the game because he owns that book.
Right.
But
he doesn't read them.
Right, doesn't read them. But if you ask them, oh, did you get that book? Oh, yes, I have that. What'd you think of it? I haven't read it yet, but I have that book. You have to put these things into practice. And
That's right.
I would bet that almost everything everyone on this show is teaching is stuff you can do. I know it is with Wilson Method. I know it is because that's the way I designed it. But most of the insiders I know, when they start to spill secrets, the secrets are always remarkably simple, easy to do. It's just a matter of knowing them. It's just a matter of realizing, oh, if you do such and such, you'll eliminate all this wasted time and energy or whatever it may be. So
That's right.
I hope that people will rewatch this show because I hope
so
that they
much
will,
value.
Well, thank you, Dave. I mean, I hope that they will contact you and tell you about successes they have using these techniques.
Yeah, that would be really great. And also, it would be really fantastic if all of you, and just like Larry taught us earlier in the show, you have to ask, please consider sharing our show. Share it with your family, your friends, your Facebook feed, YouTube, for those of you out there watching on YouTube. We're very grateful for you watching the show, and we really appreciate a like and a share and maybe some comments as well. But most importantly, take action, because Larry is going to teach you guys some things that you're going to be mind blown about. If you take action now by going to remotecontrolrevenue.prosperityinsider.com. Again, that's remotecontrolrevenue.prosperityinsider.com. Most of you should see it in the chat as well. Make sure you go there, register for Larry's free, absolutely free webinar, where if you think you got value from this show today, you're in for a real treat, because you're not going to believe what he has to offer you on his webinar.
And I should also tell you, it's not going to be a long training. It may just be 40 minutes. If people have questions and we have time, we may do a Q&A at the end, but it won't be very long. I'm just going to try and deliver some great tools that you can use.
Thank you, Larry. And we really are grateful to have all of you viewing us today. My name is Chief Solutionist David Don Hobley. This is the amazing Larry Wilson. We're very honored and grateful to have had you on the show today. We appreciate you. I am going to show Larry's sizzle reel again for those of you who joined us late. So we're going to run that again here at the end of the show so you can learn a little bit more about the amazing Larry Wilson. Larry, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you soon.
Larry Wilson here. I'm extremely proud that my wife, Nicole, and my son, Joss, are now able to pursue their dream. That was my goal. That was my objective. That they could do what they love in life without compromise. The thing that makes them feel fulfilled. Not just their passion, but with a sense of purpose. I do the same thing with my clients because I was looking for that purpose. And I found my answer in the most unlikely place, on stage in the biggest theaters and sound stages from the most famous stars and celebrities in the world. I learned a skill set that is very unique, and that is how to communicate in a way that makes you impossible to ignore and invisible no more. I've dedicated my entire life to mastering these communication skills that open the doors of opportunity. And after 25 years teaching these skills internationally, I've never had a single failure. The reason for my success with people of virtually any background or age is that my techniques, my systems, my processes don't require talent. They're all entirely technique driven. If I learned anything from 40 years in show business, it's that you don't need talent. You need technique. I look forward to sharing my life's work with you. A life's work that is transferable. A life's work that is duplicatable. A life's work that will empower you to win the recognition of people who will fall in love with you, who will offer you job opportunities you've never had, allow you to generate the income and freedom to live a life of consciousness that you've never been able to embrace. To become a master communicator, full of humor and life and love. I'm Larry Wilson, father, husband, author, speaker, and trainer, with over 4 decades of experience speaking and performing on stages around the world and on TV. I would love to gift you some of my life's work online now, where you'll receive free trainings, motivation, and other priceless gifts that will open the doors for you to experience your life in HD.